What's going on? It's the face of the franchise, the one division pro champion, Jarett Diaz. I'm drinking Arizona, and you are drinking at Moe's.
This is Drinkin at Moe's, where we talk about the pros of pro wrestling in the Midwest while sipping on some brews with blessed beers and wrestling. That's my scene. Death matches and lucha libre, it's all so mean. I'm a straight up smart goofball, not no kiss ass. I stand tall when it comes to wrestling. I'm the king. I know every move, every fling. Get ready for a wild time with Drinkin at Moe's, where we don't quit. Drinkin at Moe's, that's where it's at, like a power bomb. We hit hard, never flat. Fucking right, we're living the dream. Talking about wrestling, always a scream.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinking Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're finishing filling out your order, use the code Drinking at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. All right, everybody, welcome Drinking Moe's. Big Mo here. You know the drill by now. YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff with YouTube, because that YouTube algorithm is a pain in the ass. Where most places you can find audio podcasts too. Leave a comment, review there. Today, I'm excited to have with me, from one champ to another, Jarett Diaz. How you doing?
Happy to be here. Glad we were able to put this together. We previously scheduled this, had a little bit of a conflict, but I'm very excited to be drinking at Moe's.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to have you on. I love getting to talk to people from all over the country, which, when getting started, I never thought that I'd be talking to some of the people that I've been from, like New York. Well, I mean, I have connections in California because I was stationed there, but Texas, Florida, hell, even people from New Japan. So I'm like, all right.
And where are you based right now, Mo?
Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
over, all over.
Oh God, all over. And hell, I've been able to have some great people on. I actually, coincidentally, I was just watching somebody talking about the guy that ran this promotion that's kind of infamous. But I had a guy that was one of his champions at one point, and I had him on. He had that infamous video where he burned the belt, Jake Christ.
I'm familiar.
I had him on shortly after that video came out. So, and I've met him a handful of times at a Revolver.
Sure,
So,
been around there. Yep.
oh yeah, fun.
I think that's where I met him as well in Daytona about a year ago.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They Revolver seems to, for the most part, flip flop between Des Moines and Dayton.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting down to Texas.
Sorry, I meant Daytona. I meant Dayton, not Daytona. Yeah.
Hey,
Dayton, Ohio.
hell,
Very different from
I could
Daytona,
get it.
Florida.
I could,
Trust me.
yeah, I could get it confused
Sorry,
too.
I'm still a little jet lagged from the travel back from the UK.
So I was just that. Well, hell, we'll go into that a little later because
Please, yeah, we'll talk about that later.
talking about world travelers. I've had quite a few on, but before we get too deep into this, first thing I like to ask everybody is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you deciding to make the leap into the business, because that term mark gets used towards fans a lot.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, anybody involved in the business, they're in it because at some point or another they were a fan themselves.
I think the term is the term has kind of lost its meaning a little bit, and it's kind of thrown in an insulting way. I try not to use that verbiage sometimes, but let's talk about the story. So when I was 10 years old or so, I was in the after school program in school. My parents both worked, and it's a classmate was playing on a PSP. He was playing SmackDown versus Raw 2007.
Mm.
And I was already familiar with WWE. I knew who The Rock was. I had like a Chris Jericho action figure, I had a Matt Hardy action figure. Like I was familiar with wrestling as a whole, but I wasn't necessarily a fan at the time. And mind you, I'm 10, 11 years old. And I see like a cutscene of Shawn Michaels doing Sweet Chin Music, right? He's tuning up the band, smacking the ground, smacking the ground, smacking the ground. And I see this hell of a kick delivered. And immediately I'm saying, what is that? That is awesome. Tell me about that. And he goes, oh, it's WWE wrestling. This is Shawn Michaels. You got to check it out. It's up tonight. It's Monday Night Raw. You got to watch it when you get home. Say less. So again, I'm 10, so I have a bedtime. My bedtime's 9 o'clock. This was before the show went 3 hours, so 9 to 11 on USA. And after some pleading and some convincing, my mother allows me to stay up the next half hour, 9 to 9:30, just to watch a little bit of wrestling. And I'm thrilled. I'm excited. I'm finally getting the okay to turn it on. So I'm a couple of minutes after it's already started, maybe scrolling up to the channels, and the very first thing I see is Jeff Hardy doing a dive onto Umaga.
Mm.
And I don't know how quickly you could fall in love with something, but it might have been as quickly as anybody could have. I noticed this wild looking man diving onto this other very differently wild looking man surrounded by about 15,000 people on some random Monday Night Raw. And I said, oh, I love this. I want to do this. And after a couple years of being a fan and starting to, stay up way later than my bedtime to watch it every night and
Guilty.
sneaking the TV on when everybody was asleep to catch more wrestling, more wrestling, more wrestling. And as you get older, your friends start to sort of phase out of it. You figure it's not exactly on the up and up. And when I found this out, maybe 12, 13 years old, instead of brushing it aside, it almost made me question like, oh, like this is now attainable. Like you could learn how to do this. This is a job that people have. And from then on, I decided that I really wanted to be a wrestler. I started looking into, how people become a wrestler. You go, oh, wrestling school, or sometimes you come from a different sport as a professional or college or whatever different backgrounds that people take, whatever paths that people take. And when I graduated when I graduated high school and I knew I wanted to play football in college, I was going to play football in college. But I said to myself, I'm going to take football as long as I can take it. And I'll ride that wave for as long as it'll have me. And when that's over, then I can start wrestling. And so I played college football for a couple of years out in Indiana, but the summer before I left to school, Kurt Hawkins, Brian Myers had just opened up his school out in Long Island, Njpw, which, if you know, as many people do, put out the likes of MJF and Statlander and Bear Bronson and Caster and Bowens. Like it's so many really, really talented AEW wrestlers. I was in that initial class. And instead of staying there after the summertime, I went and did my college thing and I tried other things right before I continued wrestling. But I'm very glad to have dipped my toes in at 18, 19 years old, because actually I was about 18, because that's when I knew, like, okay, I really know that I can do this, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready. So I continued my football journey. I continued my college journey. And when I moved to Florida to finish college at Full Sail University, where I studied sports broadcasting and I interned with WWE, all the while was when I really started my wrestling journey on a full-time basis.
Nice. And it's funny when you were bringing up Jeff Hardy and Umaga and
Yeah, sorry, I threw a lot at you just now. So,
but it got me thinking when I was getting in And hell, I'd probably date myself somewhat, but some of the first people I remember seeing were the likes of Hogan and Warrior, and the crowds were just going nuts. But then one that standed out, and I only got to see him live once, the Legion of Doom.
Sure.
I saw them guys coming out with the spiked shoulder pads, and that young little me was just like, my God, that is awesome.
Oh, dude, 100%. The Road Warriors, man. I remember every summer, actually, from 13 to really when I graduated high school, before streaming was really a thing, before WWE Network was a thing, uh, they had WWE 24/7 on demand
Mm.
if you had Optimum television. And every single day in the summertime, I would check to see what new meaning, refurbished, rehashed old content WWE had put up. So I was watching Raw's War, I was watching the Monday Night Wars, I was watching all this WCW content, all of that through the summer. Because I was now becoming a little wrestling historian as a fan and as
Mm.
a kid who was falling in love with the business.
Oh, yeah. Hell, the same kind of with me. I didn't have the WWE 24/7, but, hell, I guess they really stopped making the DVDs now. But I literally have a whole freaking binder just chock full WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, and all sorts of stuff that, yeah, I could probably have my own damn wrestling network, but I don't own the rights to any of it. But hell, and Ring of Honor, that just got me thinking of more guests that I've literally had Carrie Silken on before.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut for an interview. I like it.
So yeah,
I wish I was into Ring of Honor in real time, and it's real heyday of the Daniel Bryan, sorry, excuse me, Bryan Danielson,
right.
your McGinnis, your Steen, your Generico, all the way through to like your Tyler
Oh,
Black. Because I didn't catch on to Ring of Honor until Cody and the Bucks and Kenny and Adam Cole and that sort of New Japan Ring of Honor.
yeah, that kind of a resurgence because it had its popularity. It kind of waned off a little bit, but then when that era started going, boom, it was just another
Yeah. And
boom.
now as a wrestler, oh my God, what a wealth of knowledge to go back and watch as film study, as ways that I can develop as a wrestler, as a performer. Watching guys like Roderick Strong before he was mainstream, watching guys like Low Key do their thing
Mm.
in Ring of Honor. It was a very different, obviously it was a different product, but it was so groundbreaking in its own way that it really has paved the way for what is on mainstream AEW to television today, or even what you see in certain wrestlers in WWE today.
Oh, totally. And me being the fan of tag team wrestling that I am, they Ring of Honor storied tag team wars, even getting to have one of my personal favorites, not Vincent. I have talked to him about coming on, but Dutch,
Yeah,
big man himself, I had him on, and
Dutch is
that
good
was,
people. Dutch is good people. I've shared a couple locker rooms with Dutch.
oh yeah, he was okay. Before I get into some more stuff here, whenever this comes up, I love telling this story
Please.
because his episode ended up getting me a little bit of recognition from somebody that I never would have thought in a million years. But I was on my way home from work and I get a Twitter alert. I'm not calling it X. I refuse to call it that. But I'm like, okay, I'll check when I get to stoplight or something. Because I didn't recognize the little picture thing. I I pull up my phone, like I about dropped my phone because it was Bray Wyatt liking the post on that episode.
That's
I'm
awesome.
just like, I immediately messaged Dutch again, and I'm like, "Are you friends with Bray Wyatt?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, that explains so much right now.
That's cool.
Oh
That's,
yeah,
that's cool recognition.
oh yeah. Now, one thing I do love talking about with everybody is how they come up with their in-ring personas, how they're coming up with how they present themselves in the ring. Because I know through damn near 300 episodes now, it comes up a lot that that first little bit can be a bit of a feeling out process.
For sure. You know, I'm very lucky to have had a lot of people around me that really encouraged, and this is before wrestling, really encouraged my personality to shine through. I've never been a shy kid. I've never been soft spoken, and one could say I'd like attention. But that's always those have always been traits that were nurtured and not shut down or discouraged. So by the time I got to wrestling, I had to figure out how to get that out, but I was never worried about getting it out. I just had to figure out what was the way, what avenue that with I could make my personality come through.
Hmm.
Um, my first set of gear was shiny and green and generic as hell. And it was a hand-me-down from my cousin who helped train me, Jason Cade, who in his own right, excellent wrestler, among the likes on Revolver of, your Rascals, your Rich Swann, guys that really, climbed to the top of the top. And it was a hand-me-down set. And I didn't know what to do with it, so I just matched it with this bright green Jets hat that I had as a New Yorker, as a Jets fan. And I thought, like, all right, this is a little piece of me, and I'll wear it to the ring. And that was that. And I started realizing because I was wrestling on the Florida small indie scene that you're not going to have a chance to really tell stories or do promos and get a character across. But I noticed that people were reacting to this hat because as a New Yorker, there's already a certain uh, concept of who you might be. There's a
Mm.
preconceived notion of New Yorkers to be rude and self-centered, pushy, fast talking, smarmy, slick, whatever people think about of New Yorkers. So when people started reacting to this New York hat and associating me with that type of attitude, I just decided to run with that.
Mm.
So my first set of custom gear were New York Yankees pinstripes because everywhere you go, the Yankees are the bad guys. It doesn't matter if you love baseball or if you're barely familiar, you know the New York Yankees. And
Mhm.
if you're a baseball fan, you hate the Yankees unless you're the Yankees. Seeing as I'm from the Bronx, which is where the Yankees play, I have every right to use that.
Mhm.
So I did. And furthermore, people started reacting to those pinstripes, started reacting to the Yankees, to New York. And I wouldn't say that it was exactly uh, reacting to me, but it was a start. And from there, I started just adding to that presentation. I started going by a nickname, the Bodega Boy. So I started carrying whatever things you might find familiar to a New York City bodega, a little sandwich, a honey bun, a loose cigarette in my ear, where I wear a Yankee fitted and a puffer jacket or whatever with the pinstripes, and just leaning further and further into the New York persona, sort of street kid that I knew growing up. That
Mm.
may not have necessarily been me, but has been the kids that I know, my cousins, my friends in school, whatever, and start to adopt some of those traits and some of those qualities and attach it to the already existing preconceived notion that these fans now have of me. And that's how the persona had developed. And over time, I've even more recently have really tried to evolve that into something a little bit more, let's say for lack of a better term, more adult. Because if you're a bodega boy, you're not a bodega man. Which is a silly way to think of it, but effectively it's an immature, cocky street kid character, and you can't be that forever. I started wrestling when I was 24. Excuse me, 22. Now I'm 28, and I'm a very different person than I was even just 6 years ago, and I'm sure I'll be a different person 6 years from now. But at this point, I've definitely turned a corner into a more mature presentation. Something I'm doing right now is promoting Jarett Diaz brand, where I am effectively the face of the franchise, the captain of of the company, the quarterback of whatever place I'm at. And number one, that's what's gotten me this one division pro championship. But number two, it is what has helped me evolve as a performer, evolve as a businessman, because truly independent wrestlers are also their own agents, their own
Mhm.
managers, their own everything.
Oh yeah,
So my persona has evolved to meet the maturity that the person behind it has had to develop.
that's awesome. And talking about New Yorkers, I've only been to New York once, and it was like I think little over a year after the September 11th attacks, when Ground Zero is still a big hole in the ground. But literally, I didn't get that vibe out of anybody that I met there. Although, I mean, I'm sure they were around. I just didn't run into any of them.
I'll say this, you've only been there once.
Yeah, I've only been there once. That is true. But one of my favorite stories from my visit there, was my dad and I. We're both into baseball. We wanted to go at least walk around this was before they tore down the old Yankee Stadium. We wanted to walk around, at least see around the outside. Well, some security guy comes peeking out of a door and was just like, "Hey, where are y'all from?" And then gave us a mini tour of the stadium.
That's
Like
awesome.
I got pictures out on the field in the dugout and stuff. So
That is
I
really
had
great. I'm glad you had a good experience in the Bronx. I got to tell you, not a lot of people do when they're not from here. Here's what I will say about New Yorkers. We are good people, but we're not always nice people. We have no problem helping somebody up off the ground, but we don't want the thank you. We just want you to get out of the way. We've helped you up. Now move.
I get you. Like me, I'm kind of a spin off of that. Like I'll help anybody out, but it's like if you're gonna try to take advantage of that, I might help you up again, but you better get the fuck out of my way after that, because if you're gonna stand in my way, I'm gonna run you the over.
Yeah, so that's sort of a default setting for people from here.
Yeah, no, I get you there. And there's you've been around the East Coast a lot. I mean, I've seen some travels, at least in the States, outside of there. But first, there's two places that I know of. I figured a lot more people will know of, that I wanted to go into, because actually you ended up having a match against a past guest of mine at this first one, CZW. Now, people like me got introduced to CZW back with like the Tournament of Death and Cage of Death, and like for a while they seem to kind of phase away from that a little bit. I mean, they're bringing back the tournament now. I've had the 2022 winner on the podcast, but what was your experience like there?
So in regards to Tournament of Death, I believe actually it just wrapped this weekend.
I was one to say so. Yeah, I saw a
Yep.
bunch of clips.
Mickey Knuckles won it, I believe. So I personally, I came across CCW when I was getting into independent wrestling. So around when I found Ring of Honor, right? Because as a wrestling fan growing up, especially, you only know WWE. And if you're scrolling on the channels looking for other stuff, you'll find TNA as well, which I did in the late 2000s. You're sort of AJ Stylesy, Kurt Angle, Main Event Mafia sort of timeline, right? But there's so much more wrestling out there. And as a
Yeah.
wrestling fan, as I was getting older into my later teens, is when you start to realize how much there really is. So you come across a PWG, a CZW, and Evolve, all of those companies. And when I got involved with CZW, they were running some some version of what they would call a tryout, basically. And I wish I could remember the name. But in very early 2022, I want to say January or February, I had the opportunity to go to a performance tryout camp thing with CZW. And it wasn't anything that was paid for. It was a, hey, if you're interested, sign up and we'll let you know if you're selected. And I was selected and I went over there and I did my thing. I showed out. And the very first match I have there is against Griffin McCoy. Now, if you're familiar with Griff right now is working a lot of GCW, JCW. Um, he's doing, obviously, he's a mainstay at CCW as well. We were in England together about 6 months ago. Griffin's fantastic, and that was my first match there. So I know that when I walked into the building, they knew what I was capable of. I enjoy working at CCW. If I'm being completely honest, CCW is a place that is still looking to figure out what they want to be going forward. And I think you understand that. And I think a lot of CCW fans understand that as well. CCW is a place that people want to go to watch deathmatch wrestling, your tournament of death, your cage of death. And that there's always going to be a place for that in CCW. But I think the direction of CCW is intending to look at itself on a little bit more mainstream level, which creates opportunities for people like myself, Richard Adonis, Griffin McCoy, post game, right? A lot of young talent, like the guys that I just named, being used regularly at CCW to effectively do what CCW has always done, which has been a platform for people to aspire to be at, and not to be insensitive, but to use it as a considerable jumping point to get to that next level, to get that level of television wrestling.
Oh yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having shows that feature regularly deathmatch wrestling, but like some of the places that I can think of, like H2O, my friends down there,
Sure.
they
Primo's
feature
place, yes.
they feature a lot of deathmatch, but they also feature a lot of great other action. Revolver, talked a little bit about them. They feature a lot of that. Hell, the last show was main evented by a Monsters Brawl death match, which was wild, as you might imagine. So, like, having that mix of something for everybody, I feel like those are the promotions, at least for me, catch my eye right away, because it's like, okay, I get a little bit of a taste of everything. Like you're at one big ass buffet and you're just getting to try a little bit of all sorts of
and
stuff.
wrestling is always at its best when it is a variety show. And just like any other variety show, you're not going to necessarily like everything that's on the card, but and I can speak on it personally, I'm not a fan of deathmatch wrestling. It's not my preferred style, but I have so much respect for it and the people that do it that I, not being a fan, fully co-sign the idea that not only does it have a place, but it has a place at the top of the card in a lot of places and a lot
Oh
of
yeah, oh yeah. Like hell, H2O. Well, a lot of their a big chunk of their main events have been deathmatch style, but you're not just gonna find that style in there because, like any genre of wrestling, it's got its detractors, it's got its supporters, but
absolutely.
it
And
wrestling.
Revolver is a perfect example of something that does a lot of different things. You have a Monsters Ball type match, right? But you also have scrambles there, and you have tag team wrestling. You have a wrestler like Myron Reed, but you also have a wrestler like John Moxley, all on the same shows. A technical and striking mastermind like JT Dunn or like Roderick Strong can be on the same show on Revolver as Manders, who's going to slice somebody open.
I ran into a good chunk of those. Manders, love him to death. Hell, he used to play college football at a rival of my team, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And I actually got to tell him this once. It's like, you and I have never had a bad interaction. So who's saying a Hawkeye and a Husker couldn't get along? He just laughed. Like, yeah. But yeah, both perfect examples. And another promotion that I wanted to, hear about your experience like there, even though I believe it's just been like one or two matches, House of Glory. Now, they're like,
Yeah.
for people, near me that, they might not have as much exposure to that product as, people out East Coast or people that, have either Triller or IWTV, getting that exposure to other places. That's like House of Glory is one of those destination spots, I feel, especially on the East Coast, because when I would imagine, hell, somebody from the Midwest, they wanting to travel out east to do shows, and they get the chance, they hear they're going to get a chance for House of Glory. It's like, okay, what the hell do I got to do? And when do you want me to be there?
Absolutely. Like House of Glory is a prominent independent. It has been for a long time. I would say it's the most valuable promotion on the East Coast, or at the very least within New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, tri-state area, right? If you're not accounting beyond up in Massachusetts or chaotic up or limitless like that, that's its own little New England section. But right here in the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut area, it's it's a House of Glory, without a doubt. I had the opportunity to wrestle there on Mike Santana's recommendation, who is one of TNA's hottest acts right now.
Oh yeah.
And House of Glory is a place that I've wanted to wrestle since I moved back during the pandemic to New York. Um, a lot of people that have trained there and that are part of that regular roster are people that I'm cool with, and they've all pushed in their own way to try and get me there. And at one point, uh, when the Puerto Rican show came up, with Mike Santana being a big part of putting that together, I was selected by Mike a week prior. Sorry, a few weeks prior, following a match that I had with Rob Killjoy and Dan Moff, who are two of the independent's most badass dudes.
Oh yeah.
Dan Moff especially is a killer.
Oh yeah.
Sorry about that. And I had this match. Mike Santana meets me in the locker room and just lets me know, "Hey man, I'll be contacting you." And I didn't know what for, but I found out. Uh, House of Glory was one of the coolest places I ever got to wrestle, especially because of the event that it was, being a Puerto Rican Day show and being as proud of my culture and knowing how much excellent Puerto Rican talent there is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, it was a really cool experience. And like you said, it's one of those places. It's a destination. Hey, that is not lost on me, and that's part of really why I want to be back there. And I know I will be at some point. It's just not something that's happening right now. I do find myself very busy, which is a good thing. I like to
Oh
be
yeah.
busy, but it also sometimes keeps me from places that I want to branch out to new or return to different spots to wrestle.
Oh
Uh,
no.
but it's
I,
definitely not lost on me. House of Glory was an exceptional experience.
that's awesome because yeah, I have been a fan of theirs. I believe the last WrestleMania, this last WrestleMania week, we've talked about Revolver. I believe there was a joint show between the two, Revolver and House of Glory.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember watching Macklin's match during that, and I'm like, oh god, like I'm just I Macklin, nothing but great things to say about him. He actually did a little short thing for promoting the channel, so that was an experience.
Sure. And shout out to both House of Glory and Revolver for being companies that are willing to collaborate with other independents. I mean, just House of Glory and Revolver, in my experience, they've both worked with future stars of wrestling out in Vegas, who is a consistent partner of mine that I'll be wrestling for later this month in October. Sorry, later next month in October. And I think that collaboration amongst independent companies, it's so important right now when you have the amount of talent that is out here on the independents. The last thing companies should be doing is trying to hoard talent or be selfish with their talent. And I think that there's more money to be made, there's more fun to be had, and there are always better matchups to be created when you're collaborating in that way.
Oh yeah, like you just open yourself up to all sorts of possibilities when you're willing to collaborate and you're not oh, kind of being a gatekeeper. Like, no, you're not doing it. You're
Yeah.
because hell, perfect segue because I was wanting to talk to you about FSW because
Please.
I have had the promoter on. This was a while ago. My memory on the exact episode is a little fuzzy because I mean, as of this, I'm like 5, 6 shy of 300.
Nice. Congrats. Congrats.
Oh, thank you. So my memory on the exact episode is a little fuzzy. I believe it was before one of their mecha shows,
Yeah.
but FSW, like, I mean, we've talked about, East Coast. Obviously, FSW, they're out like Nevada. If I'm
Vegas
okay,
based. Yes. Las
I
Vegas.
was I was wanting to say because like memory again, little fuzzy sometimes, but again, much like House of Glory, they're you know, yeah, they're out west, which is like kind of had an abundance of destination spots for independent wrestling out west. But FSW, like hell, some of the names that have come through their doors and gotten a bit of a start there, it is like a who's who of wrestling right now. Like I remember seeing Hammerstone.
Absolutely. I'm gonna run some names for you just off the dome. You ready for this, sir? You got LA Knight, Karrion Cross, Alex Hammerstone, Chris Bay, Solo Sokoa, Jay Vidal. I know. And I know because that's part of the reason why I wanted to be over there. Let me tell you a little story because it might be what you're asking me, but
Oh
if you're
yeah,
not going to ask me, I'm going to tell you anyway.
yeah.
I, during the pandemic, was, as a lot of us were, locked in and isolated. And I knew that when it was time to go back to wrestling, that I was going to be the exact opposite of that. So you come out of the pandemic, AEW is running an event in Las Vegas. And what happens when there are big events in wrestling? All of the independents, or at least the ones who can afford to,
Mm-hmm.
flock to that city, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want all of those wrestling fans who are diehard wrestling fans, they want to spend the weekend bringing them to other little shows.
Oh yeah.
So AEW is running, I want to say Double or Nothing 2021. I could be
I,
wrong, but I
I
believe
wanted to
it's
say
that
yeah.
one.
That seems to be their main Las Vegas one. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was that 2021, summer 2021. And I hit up the promoter for FSW, who I see is promoting a show, and I said, "Hey, I want to work for you, blah, 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 blah." And he says, no. But my son, my junior, is running a smaller show before ours. If you'd like to be a part of it, contact him and we'll see what we can do on this end. I do just that. I reach out. I let him know I want to come out here. I'll cover myself getting out here if that's what it takes. Pay me to wrestle and I'll do the rest. And Joe DeFalco Jr. helped me out, made sure that I had something to do on the show, at which point I did my thing. And it just so happened that DeFalco Sr., who runs FSW proper, we're from the same county over here, and we went to the same community college.
Hmm.
So when I finally got a chance to talk to him and we started to get along and started to build a rapport, I was able to now reach out to him personally the next time I wanted to come out to Vegas. And every summer, every year since then, I've come out to FSW once or twice. And every opportunity that I have there, I make the most of it. Uh, they are able to put me in a better position on the card or with a more prominent match or prominent opponent every time I've been there. So I've I'm very proud of the relationship that I've been able to build from across the country, but additionally, I'm also very grateful for the opportunities that they have trusted in me.
Oh yeah. It's that having that relationship there can be kind of nerve wracking for like especially when you're across country, but then, building that rapport and them showing they got that trust in you because hell, there's one bit of a nod that they'll give and, putting a title on you, but it's also a nod getting featured in prominent spots
Exactly,
on the
especially as
card.
somebody who's a non-local who, they know that they have to invest at least a little more attention and time to make sure they get out here, let alone money, to get out to where they are putting on this show. That is the trust that A, I can work, right? I can put on the hell of a show. And B, most importantly, that fans who are sitting in the seats will react to me, or at the very least, that I can put fans in seats.
Mm-hmm.
When you bring in outside talent, the investment of bringing outside talent in is with the intention of, hey, that guy who's not from here will still put asses in seats like the local kids do, who are able to help flyer or who are bringing friends and family who will buy tickets or anything like that. Anytime you're bringing in outside talent, that's the idea, right? With
Mm-hmm.
this group that I went to with England, Jaden Newman, O'Shea Edwards, Cody Manhorn, and myself, we were able to sell out two back-to-back shows off of our announcements. The shows were sold out before the weekend began because these England promoters went out of their way to invest in talent that they believe will be able to put asses in seats at their shows. So it's no different whether it be UK or Las Vegas. So the trust in me to be able to be a person on their card that can do that means a lot to me. But on my end, I have to now trust them that they'll take care of me, that they'll put me in a position where I can grow, a position where I can showcase what I'm doing, a position uh, where it's not lost between an opponent and I that that the position itself is important, right? If I walk into a match and my opponent that I've been given does not understand the importance of bringing in an outside talent and doesn't do their job to showcase me, and I don't, or doesn't care about me showcasing them, that that's lost. And then
Oh yeah.
that now the promoters have wasted their money or have wasted their time and attention bringing in this outside talent. So all of the pieces have to work in tandem for
Oh,
a relationship like mine and theirs to make sense.
oh, most definitely. And again, perfect segue here because and question on this. So the UK tour that you went on, you brought up Cody Manhorn.
Yeah.
That was also the one that, he had talked to me about that he was going on one. I guessing it was the same one because I was one of his sponsors for that one.
Hell yeah. Cody's a dog. Cody's a scrapper.
Oh yeah, I love
Dude right there.
he can ref, he can just be a
Oh yeah.
scrapper in the ring,
Oh yeah.
wrestling. He's like
Without a
good
doubt.
dude. So what was your experience like, UK? Because world traveled. There's like, okay, there's one other place outside of the US, but UK. Now, one thing that I know I have heard a lot, and then I've heard some of the opposite, but the food over there, I've heard loads of bad. Before we get into the wrestling side of things, was it for you as bad as it seems the stereotype to be?
Sure. The easy answer is no, but I think the reason for that is a little more complicated. I'm a very simple eater. I don't try a lot of new foods if I don't have to, or if I'm in a position where if I'm in control of what I'm eating, I don't I don't experiment, right? I know what I like, I know what I don't like. I've been on the earth long enough to figure it out by now. So when I'm in England, what am I trying that's properly English food? Fish and chips.
Mm,
Everybody likes fish and chips. If you don't like fish and chips, that's fine, but that's a British food that's also really basic.
yeah.
So that's cool. I'm not trying blood sausages. I'm not trying English breakfast. Like I'm not doing that. I don't have to. I just don't. So I won't. What I find really easy is to eat at these peri peri spots, your Nando's,
Mm,
um, any of these little local spots that just say like chicken, pizza, burgers, because they're on every block, at least where we were staying in Preston, there were like 9 of them in that city, in that small city. So I don't really have any issues sifting my way through eating the same chicken sandwiches, um, and burger and pizza. And I try not to eat like that too much, but like I said, I'm kind of picky, so I'm gonna eat what I like.
Yeah, I'm not a picky eater in the least, but I'll try just about anything once. And then if I like it from there, I'll have it again. If I
Sure.
don't,
And if you find yourself in England, you'll make your way through all that British food. I'm good. I'm fine. And that's not even hating on it. I just don't find out. I don't
yeah,
need to know. I like what I like.
no, no problem there. Now, as far as the shows itself, like I've been able to watch some of the UK promotions, and they can have some lively crowds. And then there's
Oh yeah.
also, I mean, there's a reason the term British strong style came up. You know, a lot of the homegrown people there literally that's the style they go with. And I mean, that's kind of a style that I like. I like that smash mouth, just knock the snot out of you
Absolutely.
style. What was your experience like show wise there?
So now having been there twice, I can say that I've had a number of experiences wrestling in the UK, in England, not just once, but this most recent this most recent trip, I there was a day where we wrestled on 2 different shows in the one day. And when I can tell you that that English British strong style reputation, it's no joke. It's not a myth or just some nickname or some moniker that you can promote on a t-shirt. I wrestled a dude named Philip Michael, who's smaller than me, but that man can hit hard. I speak on it even further. My boy O'Shea Edwards, one of the biggest bitches on the independents, who's built like a Mack truck with, honestly, with some athleticism that even people my size don't have. And him and T-Bone, Tyson T-Bone from NXT UK, they were getting after it. So this British strong style, it's not a nickname. It's not a gimmick. It's not a moniker. It's legit. With that being said, across my 2 tours with the UK now, I've had really great experiences. There was one match in particular where it was a multi-man where I was wrestling Philip Michael, who again is a British wrestler, uh, Mochizuki Jr., who wrestles for Pro Wrestling Noah,
Mm.
and communicating with him, by the way, he only speaks Japanese. He only speaks Japanese. So shout out to Google Translate and the translating app on my iPhone for helping that communication out. And then secondly, a wrestler named Michelangelo, who is Greek, who spoke English, but slowly.
Mm.
Point being is when I get to go to the UK to wrestle, that is often the case. There is a melting pot of European culture or just wrestling cultures all coming to wrestle in this place. And it's not dissimilar to the United States. The only difference with the United States is that the wrestling culture across the United States is a little bit more ubiquitous, is a little bit more similar. Whereas England, Japan, Greece, Italy, wherever, all on that side of the world, all very different little things that they do. So being put into a ring with an American wrestler, we're all having to give and take in that way. So I would say my experiences with the UK, not only have they been incredibly fruitful and enjoyable and profitable, more than anything, they've been uh, growth and experience. They've been enlightening in the way that I'm coming back to the US having learned more than what I knew when I left.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that's a wealth of knowledge you can pick
Yeah,
up on those UK tours.
absolutely. I specifically want to credit James Mason, who was a coach with NXT UK and has been on a bunch of the shows that I've wrestled on now. And every time I get to pick his brain, I do. And secondly, Dean Allmark, who is objectively one of the greatest technical wrestlers in the world today. And the name may not be as prominent as a Zack Sabre Jr., but when I tell you that this dude from bell to bell can put you and release you out of 20 different holds in about 20 seconds, I'm not joking. Dude is incredible. And I've learned every time that I've been in the ring or near a ring with him in it.
That's awesome. And another country you've been to that I love getting to hear more stories about, all sorts of places that, you know, some people here in the States might not realize how, you know, the independent scene is in these countries. But Germany, now I'm actually part German, Irish, and Scottish. The most I have personally seen of Germany is through the Frankfurt airport windows.
Sure.
But what was your experience like there? Because, being part German, that's still a country that, like, I actually want to get out there and visit and actually get to see besides through the airport.
Sure. I want to first touch on one of the probably the biggest similarity between wrestling and in wrestling in Germany is the gratitude of the fans from for American wrestlers who make that trip. Between my two trips to the UK and my original trip with WXW Germany, not once have I ever felt taken advantage of, taken for granted, or just generally unappreciated. The fans in Europe have been the fans and the hosts, mind you, the promotion that I'm working for, have been nothing but grateful and kind and generous to the U.S. talent that I've traveled with, including myself. I loved wrestling in the UK. I loved wrestling for WXW. It is a thrill. Additionally, WXW, of course, being one of the most prominent professional wrestling companies in the world. It is
Hmm.
effectively the most important independent on that side of on that side of the world, on that side of the globe.
Oh yeah.
So, arguably, at least. So
Yeah.
I adored my opportunity with WXW, and I would love to go back. Germany is a tougher trip to make than England for a multitude of reasons. Most specifically, the lack of independent diversity in Germany. There just aren't as many companies,
Yeah.
right? When you make a trip like this, you don't typically go just to work at one place. So the difficulty lies there in the logistics. But I would love to go back to Germany because my time there actually it opened up all of these other opportunities for me as well. Because when I was in Germany wrestling for WXW, I wrestled against a man like Dries, who's one of the best wrestlers out in England right now, who makes his way to the States from time to time to work for GCW, CCW. But when I was out in England and I wrestled him and was able to make that connection, and that opened the door to making contacts in England. Additionally, uh, when I was out there was when I met Jaden Newman and when I met O'Shea Edwards, who are now people that I travel with to these other countries who we travel together as a group. We call each other 87 churches. That's a little deep cut for you. And we go out of our way to make these trips together because we have common goals. We have similar interests in the way that how we want to move forward with our careers. So that trip to Germany opened up numerous paths for me to grow as a performer and as a person.
Oh yeah. Like, I very familiar with WXW because I've had a handful of people that have gone through their doors on. And so how did the initial one in Germany come about? Because, you know, independent wrestling, especially, you're making contacts all over the place. Was there a specific person or a place that was like, that's what set it off, or was it you reaching out that got
I,
that
I
one?
I would say it's a combination of things. So I'm pretty active on Twitter, not so much in tweeting, but in paying attention to what is going on in the wrestling world, because that's where a lot of information circulates.
Yeah.
So I see one of my buddies, I don't remember who at this moment, but retweeted a post from WXW Germany, which when translated effectively was, hey, if you're interested in coming out to Germany as an American talent, email this number, email this email address and subject line it with blah, 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 blah. And so I did. It was a cold reach out to WXW's company email. And I guess it was just feeding for American talent who were interested. It wasn't, as far as I knew at the time, it wasn't anything specific. But, and it circles back to working for CZW, CZW, specifically DJ Hyde, has worked with WXW, has worked in Germany and in Europe for a long time. That's been a company relationship that has existed even before DJ's time with Zandig and the previous CZW owners. So when WXW's contact basically came across my email and I referenced CCW as one of the places that I work more prominently at, they contacted DJ. DJ spoke highly of me, and from there I was selected. Um, and at that point, it just became a waiting game of like being told where to go and when and what I'll be doing.
Hmm.
At that point, I met Speedball Mike Bailey. And when I tell you about, that Germany trip opening more paths, this is one of them. I meet Mike Bailey there. He goes out of his way to watch my match with Doris. And as soon as my match was over, I noticed that he was watching everything. So I went right to him and said, "Hey, man, what do you got for me? Like, rip it apart." And I don't know if you've ever heard from Mike Bailey or spoken to him before, but he's the kindest, most soft-spoken man of all time.
Oh yeah.
And even when he's ripping into you, he's going to be really delicate about it. Uh, but because of that, I was able to build a rapport with Mike Bailey, who I could consider a mentor in a way. Because fast forward to last year, again on Twitter, Speedwall Mike Bailey Open Challenge presented by Wrestling Revolver. Tweet out a promo as to why you should be the one wrestling Mike Bailey, and maybe we'll pick you. And that's what I did. And then I hit Mike Bailey on Twitter privately and said, "Hey man, just shot this promo. Just want you to be aware of it in case Revolver doesn't, and see what happens there." And I was selected, and I wrestled Mike Bailey at Revolver. And that was an awesome opportunity, and that's where I learned a lot. And you see how a trip like WXW opens up so many more paths for me. It opens the door to Revolver, opens the door to England, to opens the door to meeting these people who I can travel with, who I consider friends, and O'Shea Edwards, for example. Like, none of that happens if I don't take the cold call and reach out via email.
Oh yeah. All right. Now I have two categories. First one's a bit of a name game where I name off some people. You give me some quick thoughts on them, and I try to, as much as possible, theme it towards the guests.
Sure.
So each of these people, looking through match histories and stuff, you've at the very least shared a locker room with these people, if not shared a ring with them. So, like I said, I give you the name, some quick thoughts on the person.
Let's do it.
First one, a guy that I have actually met a handful of times, and he's one of my autographed figures back there. I actually, first night I met him was actually the night of my bachelor party, because my best man was like, "Hey, you want to go to Revolver in Des Moines?" I'm like, okay. Rich Swann.
Rich Swann's amazing. Rich Swann's a legend. I wrestled him for the CCW World Title. It was my first ever World Title Championship match, and he was double shotting that day. So he was wrestling Miles Hawkins like an hour away. He shows up maybe 20 minutes before we were going to wrestle. I'm nervous as hell. I'm a wreck because I don't know what the hell we're going to go out there and do. And he just gets in. He's chill as hell. He goes, "Hey, man, I trust you. We'll be fine out there." And we just go. Mind you, I met Rich Swann about 2 months into wrestling school back in 2018 with little to no knowledge that I'd ever, or really no confidence that at the time I would share the ring with the guy. And he's just one of the best people that I've been able to learn from in this business.
Oh yeah, nothing but pleasant interactions with him.
I don't want to be long-winded here, but Rich Swann is one that I'm not going to say little about.
Oh yeah, no, I get you there. One of my favorite interactions with him was actually the night that I got the wrestling figure signed by him, because I brought a bunch, and Revolver, they'll do a meet and greet before the show, and Revolver, the rosters are generally pretty easy to just talk to after the show even.
Yeah.
So he wasn't out there for the meet and greet before. And then I didn't see him out during intermission, so I was a little bummed. But then I go and I I'm standing around talking to a few people, and then I turn around, and literally maybe 2 feet behind me, there he is, just randomly. So I'm like, oh shit, okay. Then we got to chatting it up. I got him to sign an 8x10 that I had made of the picture of the night that I first met him, that night of my bachelor party. Him holding the X Division title. It was,
If you know Swan, and a lot of people know this about him, is that if you don't see him before the show or during the show, it's because he's playing 2K in the locker room. That is one of the things I look forward to most when he shows up is for us to play 2K.
all right. All right. Next up, a lot of people will remember this guy from chanting jobber at him during a match with Chris Jericho that he ended up winning. Action Andretti.
Action Andretti. Action Andretti's a dog. Um, Probably a little bit more reserved than one would think. I like Action a lot. Action's cool. One of the dudes that probably I'm most proud of to see having gotten signed or gotten that platform. Uh, Very surprising for sure, because I think it was surprising to him how it happened, but not surprising that it happened.
Oh yeah, no, I remember hearing the story about, he was technically signed before it happened, and then they're like, trust me, wait, and then boom, it happens, and I'm like, holy crap! Like, it brought back memories of one 1-2-3 Kid beating Razor Ramon back in Monday Night Raw, and I'm like, okay, this is
We
interesting.
love Action in this house. We love Action Andretti.
Oh yeah, I got nothing but love for him. All right, this next, technically two people. I much like Danhausen. He likes to call them, and this is a name that I will always call them, the Ass Boys or the Guns.
Yeah, I call them the Ass Boys too. So admittedly, not don't know Colton that well. I can say that. Did share the ring with them on my first time with AEW, but Austin I've known since training and wrestling down in Florida. We were on a show together back in 2019. That Matt Morgan
Mm.
from TNA back in the day, he was running a charity show, and we just happened to both be booked for it. Um, had a long talk with Austin, which was really cool. At the time he was trying to go to New Japan and go do the Young Lions program. Obviously ended up not doing that, but I was very excited to what I found out later to be selected by Austin to tag in that match at AEW for that taping, which was a really cool vote of confidence and a buddy of mine.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I'm forgetting. Okay, now I'm trying to remember where I was going here. The
I like this game, by the way. You're just picking people that I like. It's really easy to answer them when I like them.
Yeah, I bet. But funny little interaction that I had with them on Instagram. I forget which one, but it was I had made this short TikTok for my for the podcast TikTok page where I was like, you know who the Guns, the Ass Boys remind me of? They remind me of those seagulls from Finding Nemo. And then I stitched in the scene where they're all like, mine, 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 mine. And then I forget which one of them had actually put that in his story and said, ha ha ha, Gandalf's got jokes. And I just laughed my ass off. It was just like, oh, that all right, you got me. If I can
If
talk
you can sling it,
smack,
you
I
got to
should.
take it.
Yeah, no, if I'm gonna dish it, I should be able to take it. So hey, that helped. It helped that it was actually funny. So that was my little interaction with them, and yeah, no, I have. I mean, hell, okay. another random thought that just came to my head. The thing with heels is it's their job to make you want to pay your money to see them get their ass kicked.
Sure.
And hey, I got to give it to them. They do a good job of making people want to do that.
Very, very old school tactics in their way, but doesn't take anything from, away from them when it comes to athleticism, in IQ, all those things. But they're very good at getting booed out of the building.
Yep. Nope, I can't take any of that away from him. All right. Last but not least, I believe he's on some time off for an injury or something right now. Jordan Oliver.
Oof. Yeah, he's out with the knee right now. Obviously, wishing the best with recovery.
Oh, totally.
That being said, Jordan Oliver is one of the most interesting cases to me because I'll put it this way. I got a chance to wrestle Snoop Strikes in 2019 and again in 2020. The reason I bring that up is because Snoop and Myron Reed and Jordan Oliver were in a little group called Injustice back in MLW. And when I wrestled Snoop, then known as Kodo Brazil, they were in that group. And I made a little personal goal to say, all right, I want to wrestle each one of those three guys. I wrestled Snoop twice. He beats me twice. And that's not cool. I'm not happy with that. But I got a chance to have wrestled him, to have competed, and hold my own for sure. Fast forward about 6 months after the second time I wrestled Snoop, and I'm wrestling Myron Reed in Rhode Island. My first match where I consider it to be a proper platform, an opportunity type match, right? Biggest name I've wrestled so far. And again, another spot where I'm like, okay, this is really cool. I got to hold my own. I got to do my thing. It's not until last year where I step in the ring with Jordan Oliver. So now it takes a couple years between Myron and Jordan Oliver. The problem with that is that Jordan Oliver, that whole time, also kept getting better. And as you can see now, yes, he's hurt, but before getting injured, dude is everywhere. He's one of the front men of GCW. He's incredibly talented. He got this, he got the rocket straps on him, right? And dating back specifically last May, one of the last times I was in Las Vegas, we were doing a Future Stars of Wrestling / Future Legend collaborated tournament. I wrestled Robert Martyr in the first round. I beat Martyr. And now I have to wrestle Jordan Oliver, who had a bye. So I wrestle him having already wrestled like 30 minutes prior. This man's fresh as a daisy. I gotta compete with one of GCW's top guys. I think the JCW champion, the GCW
he was
tag
at
team
one
champion,
point,
Nick
yeah.
Wayne, GCW tag team champion Nick Wayne at that point as well. I'm banged up. He's fresh. I'm pissed, and he won. That being said, I like Jordan too. I have no beef with these people. I pretty much have no beefs in wrestling. But I'd like to wrestle them again for sure. I want to get that W back,
At least have a match where you hadn't
At least where
already
I'm fresh,
wrestled.
where I have a shot. Yeah. And the realistic the more realistic thing to say at this point is like, I just want him to get healthy enough to have a match with him again. And I know he will, and I know he's going to come back even better than before. It's crazy that he's only like 25. Right? I'm older than him. So the fact that he is on this path right now is incredible. And I'm so stoked for him, but I'm also ready to fight him again.
Really? All right. Now I have some random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. Some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far.
Sure.
So give you the question, first answer that pops in your head. Now, the first one, I keep it first because I just love the stories I end up getting out of it. Craziest in-match moment for you?
Craziest in-match moment. That's a tough one. Um,
They can be, yeah.
I would say, uh, technically not answering the question because this was right before the opening bell, but I'm going to use it anyway because it's kind of the story that's easiest to access. I was wrestling in Alabama one time. I'm within my first 2 years of wrestling. I'm wearing these Yankees pinstripes and a Yankee fitted, and I'm clearly a brown kid from New York. And these people in Alabama were having their way with it. I'm talking throwing trash, racial slurs, calling me a Yankee, the whole Yankee in a literal sense because I'm wearing pinstripes, but also Yankee in a way that like you're a Northerner and we don't like you, as if they were still living in the Confederacy or something.
Yeah.
Cycles, Alabama, yikes! But that would be the craziest
Okay. I,
ring story. May not have been during the match, but that's what.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that. I cause hell, I've had some people tell me some, not technically in the match moments, like hell, one from even in Puerto Rico. He and when he told me this, my jaw dropped because I'm like, knowing the backstory behind it, I'm like, oh shit.
Puerto Rico's wild, man. I wrestled in Puerto Rico earlier this year, and those fans are psychotic. And I love it. I'm from there. I had a blast, but they are nuts. So I
Oh
can.
god. Yeah. This guy, he I guess currently he was in a feud with Savio Vega, but he literally at one point told me about, and I forget if it was the same guy that told me this other story, but he wore a shirt to the ring that said both in Spanish and in English, "Justice for Brody,"
Excuse me. Oh my God.
and I was like I said, my jaw dropped, and I'm like I said, knowing the backstory, I'm like, oh
He's asking for some beef
shit.
for sure.
Oh hell, he told me that the promoter had messaged him saying that he had already been told by certain people that if you bring that guy back, he ain't making it home.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, no. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, because
My
hell,
my number one goal when I go wrestle is to get home safe. So if I'm putting that directly in jeopardy,
yeah, and
clearly
I'm
something wrong.
like you said, the reputation of the fan, and hey, I got nothing against wrestling fans anywhere, but the fans in Puerto Rico have that reputation of being nuts. Like going back to the days of Brody and hell, the stories that some of the guys would tell during that Dark Side of the Ring episode about some of the
Yeah,
stuff that would get
yeah.
thrown out.
Reminds me of the Jack Veneno and Ric Flair match where they were not going to let Ric Flair leave the building if he won. So that's a yeah, it's expected. It's expected. Those fans are nuts, but like I said, I love them because they're my people. So it wouldn't
Hey,
be mad at me.
oh no, I get you there. Now, all right, with being a world traveler and traveling across our country, a lot of travel, a lot of airports. Do you have a particular travel story, like a crazy one that just pops out at you?
Uh, well, crazy, but maybe my fault. Um, During the pandemic, there were not a lot of places still running. Obviously, we were having a global and national pandemic. However, some promotions were still electing to run under certain circumstances. So, no fans, social distancing, masks up all the way until you're in the ring, sort of conditions. One of those promotions was Punk Pro Wrestling, which runs in Newport Richey / Tampa, Florida. And I decided, as part of I guess what I thought at the time was going to be my last match for a while, to drive from Queens, New York, all the way down to Florida to wrestle. It took me it took me 25 hours to drive there,
Jeez.
and I did. I just I just drove it. I drove it. I showed up. I wrestled, and then I slept there one night, and I turned right back around, and I drove all the way back home. I'm talking 48, 49 hours on the road or so for 2 matches in front of 0 people.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. When I tell you that my pay didn't even close to cover the gas that it cost to get down there. But this was a time where I was 2 years into wrestling. I just missed it badly enough to do something stupid.
Hey,
And so I did.
no, I get
I,
you
I don't,
there.
I don't, I don't regret it one bit.
No, I get you there. I mean, I've driven halfway across the country before when my my enlistment ended. I went on a little road trip visiting a few people, and yeah, only only spot in my car that wasn't practically packed to the ceiling was the driver's seat. So yeah, I didn't have room for anybody.
Yeah, that's how I moved down to Florida. I just packed my Jeep up. I had a 2-seat soft top Jeep at the time. I just packed it up with every inch that I could pack up, and I left. And I since have done that Florida drive maybe half a dozen to 10 times now. Um, it's never fun, but I seem to just find ways to keep doing it.
So yeah, no, the only real crazy travel story that I got didn't involve an airport, but it involved the one time I took a bus. People talk about airports and baggage issues. I've never had one in an airport. The one time I took a bus, I did because the bus I was originally on broke down, so they had to bring out another bus. The baggage that I had got put on the wrong bus. And then I didn't find out until I'm in Oklahoma City searching for my bags, miss my bus from there, and then I'm stuck in Oklahoma City for 8 hours.
Yeah, that's brutal. I don't. So when you talk about having baggage issues on the bus or not having them at the airport, I don't check bags. Period.
No,
I
anymore I don't.
I refuse to let anybody check my bag or, God forbid, lose my bag in the course of traveling. My stuff stays on me or right above me at all times. So, yeah, I definitely can I definitely can relate with the frustration that you'd have there.
So yeah, no, I since I've sworn off ever taking another bus. I've and airports much like yourself. I unless I absolutely have to, I don't I don't check a bag either. I'm like I want to like my eyes either on it or know that it's right above my head the whole time.
Yeah.
All right. Now, my wife and I actually have both of these, but some people love both of them. Other people lean one way or the other. Dog or a cat person?
Dogs, and it's not even close. I don't mess with cats. I don't mess with cats. It seems that people want some people at least want pets that you have to like earn their love. And we already do that enough for people. Give me a little dopey animal that's just gonna love me unconditionally as long as I keep feeding it, and I'm in a good spot. I've had dogs my whole life. I have no intention or interest in owning a cat.
Yeah,
And for
my
you cat people out there, by the way, for you cat people who are listening, that's not an indictment of you. That's an indictment of cats.
yeah,
You could feel how you feel about that. That's your business.
oh hell no. They're my my wife when I first met her had two, and one ended up loving me. The other one, I mean, it's grown to tolerate me.
Yeah, see, I don't want to live in a house with a thing that just tolerates me. For that, no. For that, I'll get a
Then
roommate or something. No, I have a dog or I have no pet.
yeah, my wife ended up getting another cat, and that one loves the shit out of me. Like I'll be laying down, it'll use my beard as a pillow and stuff.
That's a good pet to have. That's a good pet to have.
But I will admit, I'm more of a dog person. My wife and I, we have a English bulldog, and he is literally so my speed. I can actually hear him rumbling around upstairs right now. But literally, you feed him, you give him water, you let him outside to do his business, and he is happy as hell just
Yeah,
napping
and
on the couch
you
all.
hang with him, give him some pets, some belly scratches, maybe throw a ball now and again. Dogs are easy. Dogs are
Oh,
easy in the best way.
oh, totally. All right. Now, everybody has a guilty pleasure. One of those things that, yeah, some people might even tease them about liking it. What is a guilty pleasure of yours?
I hate to be that guy. I don't think I have any of those. I don't no, like I actively go out of my way to not watch bad television or reality television. I don't watch shitty movies if I can help it. Uh, I I don't have any vices. I don't really drink or smoke. Um, Guilty pleasures, man. I like candy. I'm a candy guy. I don't know. That's not like a
Yeah, not really.
it's candy at some point.
Yeah,
I
no,
can't really. I don't want to be the guy that says like, "Oh, I don't have any," but I think I am that guy. I just don't
no,
have any, like things that because you know why? Because the things that I like I'm very outspoken about. So usually, guilty pleasure is something you don't really want to admit. I have
yeah,
none of those. I have none of
no,
those.
no, yeah,
I like what I like with
yeah.
full confidence.
It brings up a. Well, I didn't even have it on my notes, but I'm curious. Since you mentioned candy, favorite candy, like
Oh,
what's like?
Sour Patch, watermelons. Not even.
Oh, those are delicious.
They're the best ones. They're the best ones. Sour
Oh
Patch.
yeah.
You get them in a movie theater, you get them at a CVS, wherever you're gonna
Oh,
get them. Best.
oh, totally. Those, or I, I've, I stumbled on these on my way to work one time. I was picking. I wanted a snack, and I saw sour gushers.
I feel like sour gushers would slap. I haven't had them.
Yeah,
I haven't had gushers since I'm a kid,
the,
just because I don't really buy snacks at the supermarket like that. But
same here.
I would be all over that. I think if I came across them.
Oh man, they're I literally, I probably buy a few too many of them because, yeah, much like you, before I discovered them, I hadn't had them in a while because, since I was growing up. But I came across them and oh my God, they're addicting.
I'll have to check them out at the supermarket. I'll have to go take
Oh,
a
yeah.
take a run over there tomorrow or something.
All right. Now, with the name of a show like I have, I feel like it would be a sin if I didn't have this question. Now, you mentioned that you don't really drink. So, favorite drink, whether alcoholic or otherwise. Like I always tell people, just because it says drinking at Moe's doesn't mean that it has to be alcoholic.
So, as I alluded to earlier, I think I briefly showed it. I did toss it since I finished it, but Arizona iced tea is my jam. I have
That,
Arizona themed gear. I literally drink one almost every single day. Uh, that is my go-to. If we're drinking at Moe's. I almost exclusively drink tequila. And like I said, I don't drink much. I drink very responsibly. I didn't drink at all until I was 24, which is considered a late bloom for a lot of people. And that's fine with me because I didn't really feel like I had to or wanted to even try it until I got to a certain age where I was like, all right, I'm an adult, let's go. But the go-to, it's Arizona iced tea.
oh, the solid choice. Tequilas, I am, you know,
Some people get a little worried, a little afraid of tequila. It makes them a little sloppy, a little messy, whatever. That's fine.
yeah,
That's your business.
yeah,
For me,
no,
I'm good. For me, tequila takes care of me.
oh yeah, no. I'm careful with it because I two of my favorites are just so smooth that you put that in like a margarita or something,
Oh,
you're
becomes
gonna
trouble.
you're gonna want to be very careful.
Yeah.
Like Casamigos and the Rocks one, Terramana.
Yeah, I just tried Terramana last week just after I won this championship about 2 weeks ago now. A little celebratory Terramana and dangerous.
Oh
Dangerous.
yeah. Well,
Dangerous.
I can definitely agree. I actually have a few bottles around here somewhere. All right. Last but not least here, best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling.
Oh man. You know what? It's not even about wrestling because it's such easy advice and I preach it. I've been saying it for years. Sometimes I'll look back into like Facebook memories and who knows how deep that could go depending on, when you got on Facebook. But for me, I was like 13, 14. And even then, I was saying this one phrase, and I carry it with me in wrestling, and I try to tell everybody no matter what they're doing. It's just be you. Everybody wants to be something in life, or at least a lot of us do. Me, I want to be one of the greatest professional wrestlers who ever lived. But I don't want to be The Rock. I don't want to be Kenny Omega. I don't want to be Bryan Danielson or CM Punk or John Cena. I just want to be me. And the only way you can succeed past the point of what other people have done, the only way to really become something is to be authentic.
Mm.
If you're trying to be like someone else, you're just going to be a lesser version of them.
Oh yeah, and those are the characters, the in-ring personas that really, I know that I notice them right away, and I gravitate.
Those are the characters that resonate, right? There's a reason
Yes.
everybody loves Stone Cold Steve Austin, is because Stone Cold Steve Austin is that dude wherever you take him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that has always been near and dear to my heart. And it's the advice that I would give anybody. If you're passionate about something, chase it and do it as you.
Oh yeah, and hell, that's something I use on the podcast. That's something that I've used when hell, I've recently made my debut in commentary, and
Congrats.
yeah, that's was something that I'll admit started off a little shaky because I think I was still in my head of like, holy shit, this is actually happening. But once I got in my rhythm, I was good, and
It's cool. When
like
you get
I'm
past the point of, wow, look how cool this is, then it sets in, wow, look how tough this is. And you have to move through it and you have to navigate that. Yeah, I know.
oh yeah, because me naturally I'm a goofball, so I figured, you know what, I'm gonna bring that to my commentary. I'm gonna be my commentary team's version of Pat McAfee. I'm just gonna be that goofball that hell the 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 whole show is still getting pieced together with the commentary, but I can let this little bit out there. Yeah, I made a poop joke on commentary.
Hey man, if it fits your brand, do it.
It fit. It fit because, like I said, I'm a natural goofball. There, we were making announcements for the second show because it was a debut show for a charity promotion, and the commentary partner was talking about it being sounding like a solid number two show, and I just laughed and said, "Yeah, because nobody likes a runny number two." And he just looked like, God damn it.
And I'm mad because that's the right poop joke to make. It's the right one.
I figured.
I wouldn't have made it, but good on you.
Hey, like I said, I'm a goofball. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to bring that authenticity of myself to my commentary and make some jokes that are just going to get people laughing like, oh my God. Like, that's me. That's me when I'm literally sitting in the crowd at a show. My goal is to get somebody to crack, whether it's the wrestlers, referees, managers, photographers, somebody. I want to get somebody to crack. And I've gotten some notable ones. I actually got Mike Bennett one time.
He's a tough one. He can be a tough one sometimes.
So I got him because it was here in Omaha actually, and it was like a moment in the match where like, okay, it quieted down a little bit. So I just yelled out, Adam! And he just looked down like I could see the reaction in his face, and he was trying to hide it because he was like, God damn. I talked to him about it after the show, and he's like, yeah, you popped the hell out of me. I'm like,
yeah.
so yeah, that the authenticity, all going back to that.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on you, they can go ahead and get them there.
Let me ask you a question, Mo. My name down there. Can everybody see that?
I think, yeah, it's over there. Yeah.
We'll be seeing this here. Good. So you can find me at the Jarett Diaz, just as it's spelled right there in that corner. On X/Twitter. You can find me at the Jarett Diaz on Instagram. You can find me at Jarett Diaz on TikTok, although admittedly I'm not as active as I should be there. That's okay. Primarily Instagram and Twitter is where you're going to find me and the Jarett Diaz brand.
All right. We'll get all that in the description. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me tonight. Best of luck out there, out east, going out to FSW and future trips out to Europe.
Big Mo, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Now, this is where I have the issue with the fucking